But when people try to argue that she's not the face of our league, or if our league would be where we're at without her, you're literally dumb as fuck.
Today, WNBA fans are buzzing after fresh remarks from Sophie Cunningham sparked a major conversation online. Her comments have left many people questioning how Caitlin Clark has been treated across the league, and whether Cunningham just said what others have been thinking. For some fans, it felt like someone finally addressed the elephant in the room.
Finally, someone who gets it. Finally, someone in the WNBA who understands this thing called business.
So, let's get right into it. What if a seemingly ordinary moment involving a role player actually exposed a much bigger story happening behind the scenes in the WNBA? When Sophie Cunningham stepped up during that intense exchange involving Caitlin Clark, it may have been more than just a teammate showing support. Her actions quickly became part of a much larger conversation among fans about what was really happening on the court.
Let's see if Caitlin Clark was the topic of conversation. Sophie Cunningham was criticizing those who refused to acknowledge that Caitlin Clark is the face of the WNBA.
For a lot of fans, that moment felt different. It challenged an explanation the league has repeated many times, and the debate surrounding it is still going. This wasn't simply another physical play or a short clip making the rounds online. It became part of a much bigger discussion because it brought back a question fans have been asking for months. Is Caitlin Clark receiving different treatment? League officials have pushed back on that idea, saying there hasn't been clear evidence of targeted treatment. Meanwhile, some players have argued that the physical style of play is simply part of adjusting to the WNBA, especially for a young player entering the league.
Cunningham letting it all out and not holding back. She calls out the old guard. She calls out the people out there who refuse to say Caitlin Clark is the face of the league.
Some fans believe the entire situation has been blown out of proportion. But when Sophie Cunningham finally reacted, the discussion took an unexpected turn. For months, supporters had been watching Caitlin Clark deal with intense defensive pressure. To some viewers, it was simply basketball. To others, the repeated contact seemed to represent a bigger issue that had been building for a long time. Then Cunningham became involved. Her reaction quickly attracted attention because many supporters felt she was responding to more than one isolated play. They believed it reflected frustration that had been growing around Clark's treatment on the court. Almost immediately, social media became filled with theories. Fans discussed possible tension between players, the pressure created by Clark's enormous popularity, and whether her arrival had changed the balance of attention inside the WNBA. It is important to separate speculation from confirmed information. Claims about private conversations, jealousy, or locker room feelings were widely discussed online, but they were not established facts. Still, the debate revealed something important. People were paying extremely close attention to Clark. Her popularity had transformed her games into major events. Television audiences were watching. Arenas were filling up. Clips involving her were spreading across social media within minutes. Supporters argued that the league had benefited enormously from that attention. They also questioned whether enough had been done to address concerns about the physical style of defense Clark sometimes faced. Critics saw the situation differently. They argued that professional basketball is supposed to be physical. Every rookie has to adjust. Every star gets targeted by strong defenders. And earning respect in the WNBA requires surviving tough competition. From this perspective, Clark was not being treated unusually. She was simply experiencing professional basketball. That explanation convinced many people, but it did not satisfy everyone. Fans continued pointing toward hard fouls, heavy contact, aggressive screens, and controversial moments that repeatedly became viral clips. The question was no longer about one play. It was about whether these incidents formed a pattern. And once Cunningham stepped into the story, that question became even louder. Before this controversy, Sophie Cunningham was not usually the player dominating national basketball headlines. She was known as a competitive veteran, a reliable contributor, and someone who brought energy whenever she stepped onto the floor. She had built a strong social media following and had earned recognition among basketball fans. But compared with the biggest stars in the league, she generally operated outside the center of attention. That was part of what made her reaction so surprising. Cunningham had spent years building her reputation through effort rather than constant publicity. Coaches could depend on her. Teammates respected her competitiveness. Fans knew she could make important plays and bring emotion to a game. She was not normally the headline. Suddenly, she was. The matchup involving the Connecticut Sun and Indiana Fever on June 17, 2025, appeared at first to be another demanding regular season game. But whenever Caitlin Clark plays, ordinary moments can become major stories. Clark entered the contest carrying enormous attention. Every possession was being watched. Every defensive challenge could become a clip. Every reaction could be analyzed by thousands of people online. As the game became physical, viewers began discussing the level of contact once again. Some considered it normal competitive defense. Others felt it continued a pattern they had already noticed. Then came the moment involving Cunningham. That moment changed the tone of the conversation. To her supporters, Cunningham's reaction seemed to challenge the idea that every difficult situation involving Clark should automatically be dismissed as normal rookie treatment. They believed she had shown that there was more frustration surrounding these situations than many people wanted to admit. But another group saw things very differently. They argued that fans were taking one emotional reaction and building an enormous story around it. From their perspective, Cunningham was simply competing in an intense game. Neither interpretation could be easily proven, and that uncertainty made the debate even bigger. Within hours, social media discussions were everywhere. People wanted to know what Cunningham's reaction meant. Was it frustration? Competitive emotion? A response to the specific play? Or was it being interpreted through the larger conversation surrounding Clark? There was no clear answer. What made the situation especially interesting was the environment surrounding Clark herself. She was no longer simply a young player learning the professional game. She had become one of the most recognizable names in basketball. That level of fame changes everything. A normal foul involving an unknown player might receive little attention. The same foul involving Clark can generate thousands of comments, millions of views, and hours of debate. The pressure affects everyone involved. Clark has to deal with constant scrutiny. Opponents know that their actions will be replayed and analyzed. Coaches have to answer questions about physical play. Even players who are normally outside the spotlight can become major news figures after one controversial moment. That is exactly what happened with Cunningham. Her involvement suddenly placed her at the center of a conversation that was already emotionally charged. Some supporters viewed her as someone who finally gave voice to concerns they had been discussing for months. Others believed she had simply become another character in an online debate that was growing far beyond the actual game. The reality may be more complicated. Basketball is naturally physical. Players fight through screens, compete for position, challenge shots, and use their bodies to gain advantages. Contact does not automatically mean something inappropriate happened. At the same time, repeated incidents can create legitimate questions. Those two ideas can exist together. Clark can experience normal professional defense while fans still debate whether certain plays were unnecessarily aggressive. Cunningham can react emotionally without that reaction proving a league-wide conspiracy. And the WNBA can benefit from Clark's popularity while still needing to manage difficult conversations about how the game is played. That is why reducing the entire story to jealousy would be too simple. The league has changed dramatically as Clark's popularity has grown. More casual viewers are watching. More people are discussing women's basketball. More games are receiving attention from audiences who may not have followed the league closely before. That is a huge opportunity. But attention also creates pressure. Some fans believe Clark should receive greater protection because of the importance of her popularity. Others argue that giving her special treatment would be unfair to every other player. Some believe opponents resent the attention she receives. Others say there is no reason to assume that, and the players themselves still have to compete against each other. That last point is often forgotten. From the outside, fans see clips, statistics, interviews, and social media reactions. Players experience the physical reality of the game. They know what happens during possessions that never become viral. They understand the intensity of professional competition in a way viewers cannot fully experience from a screen. So when a player like Cunningham reacts, fans naturally pay attention. But attention does not automatically provide the complete story. A reaction tells us that something happened emotionally in that moment. It does not necessarily reveal every reason behind it. That distinction is crucial. Online conversations can move incredibly fast. A clip appears. Someone offers an interpretation. Thousands of people repeat it. Soon, the interpretation begins to sound like a confirmed fact. That process can make sports controversies much larger than the original event. The Cunningham-Clark debate is a perfect example. One moment became a discussion about physical defense. That discussion became a conversation about Clark's popularity. Then came questions about jealousy, team chemistry, competitive tension, and the future direction of the league. Yet many of those conclusions remain opinions rather than proven facts. What is undeniable is the impact of the conversation. Cunningham suddenly received a level of attention that she had not normally experienced. Clark once again became the center of a massive basketball debate. And the WNBA found itself dealing with another example of how quickly an on-court moment can become a national story. Perhaps the most interesting part is what happens from here. As Clark's career continues, the attention around her is unlikely to disappear. Every physical play will be watched. Every rivalry will receive extra attention. Every emotional exchange can become another viral moment. That creates a unique environment for both Clark and the players competing against her. The league is entering an era where the action on the court and the conversation online are becoming increasingly connected. Sophie Cunningham's reaction may have lasted only seconds, but the discussion created by those seconds lasted much longer. Was it simply competitive emotion? Was it evidence of growing frustration? Or did fans attach a much larger meaning to an ordinary basketball moment? There may never be one answer that satisfies everyone. But one thing is clear. People are watching Caitlin Clark closely. They are watching her opponents. They are watching how the league handles physical play. And they are watching every moment that could reveal where women's basketball is heading next. For Cunningham, one moment changed the level of attention surrounding her. For Clark, it became another chapter in a career already surrounded by extraordinary public interest. And for the WNBA, it became another reminder that the league is no longer being discussed only by traditional basketball fans. Millions of people are paying attention now. That means every major moment carries more weight than it once did. Whether fans were right to question the situation or whether they simply saw too much in one emotional reaction, the debate itself tells us something about the modern WNBA. The league has entered a new era. And with Caitlin Clark at the center of so much attention, moments like this are likely to keep creating headlines long after the final whistle. The real story may not be what Sophie Cunningham did in those few seconds. It may be what her reaction revealed about the enormous attention, pressure, and emotion surrounding the WNBA right now. Because the conversation is clearly not over. In fact, it may only be getting started.